Hello, good morning to you. Hello, good. Kindly confirm you can see my screen and you can hear my voice by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started. I'm trying to load up my checks. Please kindly confirm you can see my screen. Okay, good morning, Ashitaka. All right, saying USOil controlled by Putin. Well, that's a point of view, but we are going to be looking at it from a technical standpoint. Anyways, good morning, Susie MB. Good morning, iGooks. Good morning, John Cross Saints. All right. So let me take this as a confirmation that we can all hear me clearly and can see my screen. Okay. So good morning once again. My name is Sharif Daramala, and I'm welcoming you to yet another promising session on Extreme Speed Live. And the next 1 hour, I will be taking you on a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us on the New York session today. And before we go further into our expectations for today, definitely we are going to be looking at the pairs we've been monitoring since the beginning of the week. We are going to look at how well those pairs are doing and if there are any suggestions, advices, or commentary in terms of follow-up details I will be sharing with you in the course of the session. And at the same time, if you have any pair you want us to look at, feel free to drop in a word or two in the comment section and I will try to inculcate it to my plans for today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening at this point. Well, the first pair we are going to be looking at today is going to be the US oil as usual. And let's see what is happening on the US oil. I think Ashitaka is saying something. Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. Ashitaka, that's good to hear. What else again? All right. So let's see what is happening at the US oil today. And so what was our expectations yesterday? Well, on the 1 hour time frame, as we can see here, considering the long-term bearish momentum here, we were actually expecting a bearish momentum after citing the signal at the breakdown of the structure we identified earlier this week. So we saw the breakdown of this channel yesterday, and then we were expecting that a retest of structure is going to be pushing price to the downside, and we had that retest of structure here. In fact, price did multiple rejection of that level to give us that move to the downside. So what happened yesterday is we saw price move to as low as the $83 level, which moved about how many pips that is. That was about 200 pips thereabout yesterday before we started seeing price do a consolidation phase around this area. So we saw this consolidation phase here transposing into what looks more like a reversal pattern before we sighted this breakout of structure here, hereby price going back into the resistance level of this channel. So at this point in time, if we are taking advantage of this move yesterday and see multiple rejection here, definitely we'll have locked in our profits and price moved against us and back into our entry zone. So right now on the US oil, we are more or less break even here, and we are going to be looking at what our expectation is going to be like today. So the first thing I want to do here, considering the current structure we have here, is to delete this one, and let's have a clean slate from here, after which we go up to the higher time frame to look at what price action is saying, after which we are going to be making a decision for today. So going up into the daily time frame, well, the first thing we observe here is that price has been on a long-term bullish momentum, as you can see, and this is evident after connecting the series of higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line that you can see on your screen. However, if we zoom closely into the structure we have here since the month of June, we can see that price has been trending on the downside, and after connecting the series of lower highs here, we were able to have this resultant bearish trend line that we are expecting to we saw crashed right back into that bullish trend line. So now, as soon as price crashed into that bullish trend line, what did we see? We saw a first rejection, we saw a breakout of that structure, price came right back down, break down that demand zone, that demand trend line, and then we saw price move to the downside from this point. And since price has broken that bullish trend line, we have continued to see price oscillate right below that bullish trend line. And in addition to these parameters we have here, we were able to identify a key level at the $87 mark, which you can see here. Hold on a second, let me bring this out, let me extend this out a little bit. So we had this $87 level, which has been a determinant of price action in the past. If we go to the early days of the month of August, we saw how this level has also been a demand niche for participants in this market, as we have been seeing multiple rejection of this level by the buyers before we cited the breakdown of structure during the early days of this month. We saw a little breakout, price came back right down below the structure. So we can see that price is still oscillating right below our key level here at the $87 mark, and as we head into the new week, into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans? How are we going to continue to see a trend continuation as we have cited this breakdown of this key level, this $87 level, to push price to the downside, or are we going to be seeing a situation where price is going to be rejecting this area where we might be seeing a breakout of the $87 mark, retest of structure to give us further confirmation to join the rally to the upside? So these are the two scenarios we are going to be looking at, and in order to get a better perspective into the current structure here, we want to be scaling down to the 4 hours time frame. So scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, what do we have here? On the 4 hours time frame, well, we can see that price has been consolidating right within a descending channel since the later part of the month of August. And if I give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about, we saw our price has been doing this consolidation right back into the resistance level of the descending channel. Price came back into as far as the $81 mark, $82 area. And one thing you will notice around this point is that we have been seeing sharp rejection of this level in the last couple of days. Now we've been seeing sharp rejection of the $82 level, giving us a clue into a possible demand zone here where price might be tending to move to the upside from this point. So now that we have this current structure here, the next thing I was able to do at this point is to look out for reversal structures that will be supporting a reversal, a trend to the upside. And the reason why I'm looking for a reversal pattern is this. If we look at the descending channel we have here, the first scenario, the first touch of the resistant level of this descending channel was at this point in the month of August. We saw this move to the downside. In fact, we had a strong one. It took price right back into this level, and if we project this into the next point where price touched the resistant level of the descending channel here, we can see that the momentum appeared to have reduced. As we can see, after price got into the $82 level, we have been seeing multiple rejection of that level, and this gives us a clue that buyers are actually gathering at this point to resist any selling momentum on this one. Now, with the current structure here and multiple rejection of this $82 level, I'm of the opinion that we might be having a bullish momentum going forward. So what do we want to be doing at this point right now? How do we intend to trade? What are the signals we want to be looking forward to? Well, looking at the current structure here, I also want to look for reversal patterns that will support that we really have a structure that is likely going to be pushing price to the upside. So what I did here is to have this trend line here. So we had this trend line, and we can see our price has been respected that trend line since last week. We saw price break above that trend line. We saw multiple rejection here before we saw the final breakdown, and we saw sellers trying to reject that level. But what we witnessed during the early hours of today was a significant breakout of that trend line, which is more or less a signal that we might be having a bullish momentum. And as we have seen a signal like this, we don't want to get too excited, as we want to be waiting for further confirmation to give us that leverage to be joining that rally to the upside. So now with the current structure we have here, now let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame and see if we can get a leverage for a bullish momentum here. So now going down to the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have here. And if you look at the previous bearish impulsive move to the downside, we saw the last test here, and it appears price is giving us a reversal pattern at this point, which led into that breakout of that structure. That is one scenario we want to be looking at. And then the other scenario is that we have been caught within a channel here. We can see as soon as price tested the $82 level, we saw price come back into the resistance point of this ascending channel. We saw price retest the support level of this ascending channel, giving us a reversal pattern here like a double bottom structure, which led into price respecting that resistance point of that ascending channel. So now there are two things at this point. Are we going to see price continue to the downside in such a way that we have price break down that trend line and the support level of the ascending channel, where a retest of structure is likely going to be sending price going to the downside? That is one scenario. Or are we going to be seeing price go to the upside from this point? So in order to help us make that decision here, we want to see what has been happening in the last 24 hours. So in the last 24 hours here, the first thing we noticed here, since the last live session we did yesterday, we saw this impulsive move to the downside. And as soon as price got into the $83 level, we saw price got into a consolidation phase, which looks more like a double bottom structure. And what happened after the second touch? Price was unable to break the previous low, giving us a higher low at this point. And what happened afterwards? We saw a breakout of that structure. So what I want to be doing here is to identify the neckline of this reversal pattern here. Remember, we have this double bottom structure here, which is a reversal pattern. Let me identify that zone first. So we have the double bottom structure here. Okay, so we have a demand zone here. Let's give this white, and okay, so let's place the wordings right within. So we have the demand zone here, which evolved into a double bottom structure. So let's double bottom, which is more or less a strong reversal pattern. And immediately we identify a double bottom structure like this from a technical standpoint, we want to have a neckline of that double bottom structure, and the neckline falls somewhere around the $84.50 area. So let's readjust this price. We have the $84.50 level here, and so we have the $84.50 level here. And what did we see during the early hours of today? We saw a breakout of that structure here. That is a bullish signal that we will be looking forward to. And one thing we want to be seeing is price to give us further confirmation after the breakout of this structure, which is likely going to be coming in the form of a retest of the structure, where we want to be taking advantage of a trend continuation to the upside. So now, that is the first scenario I'm looking forward to at this point. So if you had missed this move at this point, the first signal, the bullish signal here, well, let's see if the market is going to give us a second chance, as we will be looking forward to a buy opportunity right above the $84 level. So now that we have seen price did multiple rejection of the resistance point of this ascending channel here, let's see how far this retracement move is going to go. How far is it going to go? Is it going to go to as far as the $84.50 level, or is it probably going to be rejecting this black trend line here, after which we'll be seeing looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the trend continuation to the upside. So those are the two areas we want to be looking for buying opportunity at this point. In order to make things more easier, let's identify a buy zone. Let's identify a range where we want to be looking for buying opportunity. So we look at our golden zone area somewhere between the 50 and the 78.6 of the previous impulse leg here. So we have our buy zone here with so we have the buy zone at this point. Let's delete this. So we have the 85. So going into the New York session today, the $84.50 area is going to be our guide. So we want to see price either come within the 50 and the 78 points, that is between the $85 area and the $83.50 area, to look for buy opportunity. So let's wait for price to come within this area to look for that potential opportunity to join the bullish momentum here. So that is one scenario we want to be looking for. Let me delete all this so that we can have a clean slate. So if price continues to the upside from this area, that is, we see a retracement back into this level, or probably this level here, and we see that move to the upside. One thing we want to be looking forward to is if we see a breakout of our key level here at the $87 mark. Remember, we had this level right here, right above this level. So I will be adjusting our key level to this point, looking at the structure we have here on the 1 hour time frame. So we have the key level sitting at the $86.50 area. So let's $86.50. Okay, so we have a key level there. So if we have a breakout of that key level, then price gives us a confirmation in the form of a retest of the key level or this bearish trend line. Then we want to be looking for another position to join the rally to the upside. So this is how we want to trade the US oil for today. However, after identifying this bullish potential opportunity here, it is important that we take into consideration other perspective too as well, so that we can get ourselves prepared in case something different happens. So now, if we cite a scenario where price breaks down the support level of this ascending channel here, and then we see price breaks down this demand zone, then we want to be seeing this as a signal of a bearish momentum. That is, there might be a momentum shift at this point. So we want to see price break below this demand zone to give us that signal, And if that happens, we will be patient enough to wait for price action to give us further confirmation, which might likely come in the form of a retest of the structure, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So these are the two scenarios we are going to be looking forward to in the New York session today. So the first scenario, which is more likely at this point, is the bullish momentum. As we can see, we have a double bottom structure here, more or less a reversal pattern. We have a breakout of the neckline of that reversal pattern right around the $84.50 level, giving us a signal of a bullish momentum. And what we are going to be waiting for is price to give us that confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of this area here, where we look out for a trend continuation to the upside. And if we have a breakout of the $86.50 area, a retest of structure, then we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. However, if we have the breakdown of this trend line here, taking out all the buy position at this point, then we want to be looking for a retest to structure to join the decline to the downside. So this is how we intend to trade the US oil. And another thing that came to my mind at this point is that if price does not come back into the buy zone here, what do we do? Well, if price does not come back down into the buy zone, then a breakout of the structure here at the $86.50 level, which also aligns with the bearish trend line that we have identified since the month of June, then if a breakout of that level happens, then that gives us a signal of a bullish momentum. Then we wait for a retest to structure to join the rally to the upside. So now that we have identified the scenarios here, where is our take profit target going to be? In order to identify a take profit target from this point in the market, we need to scale up into the higher time frame. And if we go into the 4 hours time frame here, what I'll be advising is that we should be having our take profit target right at the demand zone, the bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Remember, we identified this bullish trend line on the daily time frame, and we remember we had this breakdown of structure during the early days of this month, and then there is a likelihood that price comes back into this area. Let's see how price is going to relate with that bullish trend line, if it's going to reject it to the downside or is going to be breaking it to the upside, where a retest of structure will be confirming a trend continuation to the upside. So what I'm advising at this point is that if we are going to be having our take profit target now, we should be having our take profit target right around the $90 area and the $94-$95 area, which will be dovetailing to, let's see how many pips that is. That's about let's see, about 900 pips thereabouts if price moves accordingly. So we are thinking price is going to come back into the buy zone here. So if price comes back, we have our stop loss somewhere right below that key level. Then let's go back to the 1 hour time frame. So we are looking for price to come back into the buy zone here to look out for buying opportunity. And if that does not happen, a break above the $86.50 area should be giving us that opportunity to join the rally here. So let's see how price plays out in the next 24 hours, and definitely we shall be coming back here tomorrow to do a follow-up detail on this one. So that is that on the US oil. If you have any questions regarding what I've just discussed so far, feel free to drop in your comment section so that we can let's see if I can be of help in that regard. So I'll be taking the next 10-15 seconds to read through the chat to see if we have any question regarding what I've just discussed before we move on to the next pair. So we have Scott Benji, good morning, glad to have you around too. Okay, so Toman, hello, how are you? Dragon 423 359, good morning. How to withdraw money? Well, someone will attend to you in a moment, or you can as well contact the contact center on the on the extra speeds page. 443 says the echo isn't good from his side. Is it really echoing at all? Let me see. Well, I will suggest that you restart your app, please, so that you can get a better audio quality. 443. Everything seems fine from this end here. Okay. Please try and restart your app so that we can get a better quality. And let me know if this still persists. So moving on to the next pair here. The next pair we are going to be looking at is the US tech. And on the US tech, let's quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday before we move on to our plans for today. Well, during the course of the yesterday's trading session, we were at this point here yesterday where I think we were around this point yesterday. And I was saying that the signal, the breakout of this descending channel is more or less a strong signal that we want to be looking forward to a bullish momentum. So we saw the breakout of that structure here during the course of yesterday's trading session, and then price came back to do a retest of the structure. So we saw a move to the upside, and remember I told you that once we enter a bullish momentum here, that as soon as price moves in our direction, we want to be moving our stop loss to break even. And the reason why I said we should be moving our stop loss to break even is simply because of the long-term bearish momentum that we have on this commodity. So since we have a long-term bearish momentum, we want to be locking our profits to ensure that we protect our position against any sudden pullback that is likely going to be happening. And what happened after we saw price come back down right below the $11,850 level, which was supposed to be our key level for the New York session yesterday. And we have continued to see multiple rejection by the sellers of that $11,850 level, as we can see that there is an indecision that is happening at this particular price. So, and if we look at the economic events for today, we will notice that we have an array of events that is likely going to be having a major impact on the US tech. And this is the interest rate decision, which is coming up in 9 hours from now. We have the Fed monetary policy statement also. We also have the FOMC economic projection and the FOMC press conference coming up today. So all these events are very strong and high impactful releases that will definitely have an impact on the US tech and even the dollar as well. So what is going to be happening before that happens is definitely participants in the market will be anticipating what the outcome of that event is going to be before they can make a decision. So we are going to be seeing probably a lot of consolidation around this area at this point in prior to this release. However, we still have the bullish momentum here still valid. The bullish momentum on this one is still valid. Let me bring out my line chart to readjust this bullish trend line to align with the current structure we have at this point. So we have this bullish trend line like this right now. Let's see, and it doesn't look very sharp, it doesn't look very strong because of the inclination we have here. So remember we said yesterday we had a double bottom structure, we had a reversal pattern here, price rejected the $11,850 level, we saw the second touch of the $11,730 area. Price broke out of the neckline, which also shares a confluence with the resistant level of the resistant level of the descending channel here. Price came to our key level at the $12,000 area. We saw multiple rejection, and our price appears to have come back to do a retest of the structure. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakout of a structure like this, we saw the breakout of the structure, which also shares the confluence with the neckline area. We expect that price is likely going to come back to do a retest of structure, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line we just identified here. And with the scenario we have here, we can see that things looks more bullish here. We have a situation where we might be expecting that we saw, hold on a second, let's do this. We have this move, price came back to do a retest, and there is likelihood that price might be coming up to break above the $12,000 area to give us a signal of a bullish momentum here. So what I'll be advising here is that to buy the US tech, we want to see price right above the $11,850 area to be buying the US tech. And if price does not break above that $11,850 area and price continues to the downside from here in such a way that we see a breakdown of this bullish trend line where a retest to structure send price going to the downside, we could be having a multiple rejection of this trend line. If that happens, we want to be joining that decline with the hopes of price coming to as far as the $11,300 area. Now, with this being said, I want to scale down to the 15 minutes time frame to look at what has been happening within this area in the last 12 hours. Want to see what's happening here, 12 to 15 hours, and let's see if we could see a structure to play around with. So we scale down to the 15 minutes time frame here, and as we can see how price has consistently rejected that level at the $11,850 area. So looking at the 15 minutes time frame here, what I'll be advising us to do is to look out for a breakout of that $11,850 level here on the 15 minutes time frame, and if we cite a rejection, then we want to be joined the buy opportunity. And if we join the buy potential opportunity here, I want to advise you to move your stop loss accordingly to protect your position against any pullback that might happen at this point. So above $11,850 area appears to be an area most comfortable to be buying the US tech here. So we don't want to see price go below this level. If price goes below, we want to be staying out of the trade. So this is how we intend to trade the US tech. We continue to look for buying opportunity right above the $11,850 area. So that's that on the US tech. If you have any question on this one, feel free to drop in your inquiry in the comment section, and I will be willing to be of help in that regard. So we move on to the next pair. I'm very sure is 443. Is the sound quality okay now? Please kindly confirm you can hear me very well. So moving on to the next pair. What pair are we going to be looking at next? Let me see. So we're going to be looking at the XAUUSD, that is the gold, and let's see what's happening on the gold. Well, on the gold, what was our expectation on the gold yesterday? Let's quickly do a recap of what our expectations were on the gold yesterday. On the gold yesterday, we were around this point when we did this live session yesterday. I think we were around here. And I was telling you that I'm expecting to buy right above the $1,670 area, considering the rejection of this demand zone here by participants in this market. Since the later part of last week trading session, we have consistently saw participants reject the $1,655 area, giving us a clue of the strength of the buyers at this point. And price since then has continued to rally right above that level. And if we look at what has been happening since the beginning of this week, we saw price started this week at around the $1,680 area, price came back into this bullish trend line. We saw price come back again within where it started this week, and then we saw the scenario yesterday. Price broke down that bullish trend line, but with the breakdown of that bullish trend line, it wasn't that massive, as we can see multiple rejection of this area, giving us a clue into the strength of the buyers at this point. And remember, we had our demand zone right around this area. Let me extend it out a little bit so that we can see. Remember, we had our demand zone around this area, and what did we see during the early hours of today? As at yesterday, well, I placed my buy stop right at above the $1,670 before I went to sleep, and lo and behold, when I woke up this morning, I saw the break above of the $1,670 area, triggering my position at this point. And before I began this session, what I did was to move my stop loss to break even to protect my position. Remember, we are on a very strong bearish momentum on the XAUUSD, and we don't want to get caught up in any sudden pullback that is likely going to be happening at this point. Despite the fact we're expecting that reversal pattern to happen, we need to protect our position against any such move. So if you had been part of this trade, you had joined this trade, kudos to you for identifying that, for being on standby to identify that opportunity. And what I'll be advising you to do right now is to move your stop loss to break even. So now, going into the New York session today, how do we intend to trade this, especially for those who missed this opportunity yesterday? So what do we want to do? What would be my advice for us today for those who had missed this trade? Well, before I do that, let's scale up to the higher time frame. Let's see how what has been happening in the last couple of months, and then come back to the 1 hour time frame to make a decision. So on the daily time frame, if we look at the current structure we have here on the daily time, if you remember what I told you on the daily time frame, we are on a very strong bullish momentum. If we look at what's happening on the daily time frame, and I have two bullish trend line here. We have the major trend line, which is the black trend line on your screen, and then the other one is the black green dotted line. And for the sake of this week, we are going to be taking into consideration this green dotted line. And if we look at the structure here, we can see that since the rejection of the supply zone at the $2,050 area, price dropped back into respecting that bullish trend line in the month of July. We saw the bullish momentum right back into the $1,800 area, and what happened afterwards, we saw price come back into that bullish trend line one more time in the early days of this month. Though we saw an attempt by the buyers to push price to the upside, but it was met with stiff resistance by the sellers, which led into an outright breakdown of that demand zone, taking out all the buy position at the $1,700 area. So what did we do on the daily time frame? The first thing we did on the daily time frame is to identify a key level that will be guiding our action for this week. And we identified a key level at the $1,700 area, and this is simply because of how price has rejected that area by the buyers. We can see we had multiple rejection by the buyers in the month of July, and if we fast forward into the early days of this month, we saw multiple rejections as well before we witnessed the outright breakdown of that structure during the last week trading session. So with this information here, and with the breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of the structure with the intention of evolving into patterns that will be supporting a trend continuation to the downside. So now that we have this perspective here, we scale down to the 4 hours time frame to see things more clearly. And on the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we observed during the beginning of this week was that we saw that following the breakdown of the key level here, which also aligns with the demand zone we identified on the daily time frame, we saw price break down that key level right into this point. And what we observed is that as soon as price got into the area within the $1,655 and the $1,650 area, we have been seeing multiple rejection of this level by the buyers, giving us a clue into the strength of the buyers at this point. So we can see every time price comes within this area since the beginning of the week, we have been seeing the attempts by the buyers to push price to the upside. So with this information, we were looking forward to bullish momentum on the XAUUSD with the hopes that price might likely come back into the key level that was broken during the new last week trading session here, to see how price is going to relate to that level. So because of that, we placed our take profit target at around the $1,700 area, with the intention of looking forward to see how price is going to relate with its level. So is price going to reject this level in a situation where we see multiple rejection to push price to the downside, or are we going to be having a breakout of that key level with a retest of structure to give us further confirmation of a trend continuation to the upside? So this is what we don't know yet, but what we know for now is that price has consistently rejected this demand zone since the beginning of the week. Hence, we want to be looking for buying opportunity right from that area. So now scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, we already have a position triggered. I told you earlier, I already have a position triggered here, and I have moved my stop loss to break even. And like I told you, I said if you had been part of this journey of this bullish momentum here, please move your stop loss to break even, and let's see if we are going to be having a second chance on this one. So for those who had missed this trade yesterday, how do we intend to trade the XAUUSD today? Well, let's look at the current structure we have here. So the first thing I will do here is to delete this bullish trend line as it's no longer needed. We just need to look at the current structure and look at parameters that we are going to be using for the New York session today. So the first parameter we are going to be using is the $1,670 area, and the second one is this bearish trend line. Remember, we have this trend line that has been holding price action since price broke down that trend line. We saw sellers rejecting that trend line here. Anytime price comes within that trend line, we saw multiple rejection by the sellers to push price right back into the demand zone. But what we saw during the early hours of today was quite interesting. We saw attempts by the sellers to reject it one more time, but this is met by a bullish momentum here. So right now we have a candle running at this point, which is about 48 minutes old, and we still have about 12 minutes old for this candle to close. So let's see how this candle is going to close in the next 20 minutes. Let's see how this candle is going to close. So if this candle closes as an engulfing candle, then that is more or less a further confirmation that this bullish momentum is here to stay. So for those who had missed this move yesterday, so what I'll be suggesting here is, if we see price break out of this resistant level, what we want to be doing is, we don't want to get too excited. Remember, we want to wait for price action to give us a confirmation, and which is likely going to be coming in the form of a retest of the resistant level here, that is the trend line here, or probably the $1,670 area. Either of this area, what we are looking forward to is a reversal pattern on lower time frame or structures that support a trend continuation to the upside from here, after which you can join the rally. So if we have the scenario, let's be looking for buying opportunities from this point. And for those who are already in this trade, if price breaks out and we see a retest of structure with patterns on lower time frame that support a trend continuation, well, this might be another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So let's see how price plays out. Our take profit target still remains around the $1,700 area, and you could probably extend it to somewhere around the 1,710 area. The reason why that is simply because of both this key level and this bullish trend line here. So let's see how price is going to relate to that level if price come to that far. So that is what we are going to be looking forward to on the XAUUSD today. And remember, we have the FOMC coming up. So let's get ourselves prepared. As soon as price move in our direction, move your stop loss to lock in some profit so that you don't get caught up in any sudden potential drop down. Now, with the scenario we've already identified here that price is going to the upside, we need to take into consideration the long-term bearish momentum we also have here on the gold. Now, to consider that, the only time, if you are thinking of selling the gold at this point and saying, okay, fine, the buy momentum is not likely going to be coming up, well, the only way I can tell you to be selling the XAUUSD is to wait for this demand zone to be taken out by the sellers. So if this demand zone is not taken out by the sellers, I'll be advising you to hold on your selling expectation here. So the only what I'm saying simply is this: if price breaks down that demand zone here, then that is probably a bearish signal, but we don't want to get too excited, as we want to wait for price to give us further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the demand zone or this resistant level here, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. But if that does not happen, we continue to look for bullish momentum here on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I will try to see if I can be of help in that regard. So Nina is asking, when is Treasury raising price today? Well, we don't know if price is going to be raised or be dropped, but one thing we know is that the time is in 7 hours from now. What time is it from our own end here? We have, okay, in 9 hours from now, we're going to be having the FOMC and the monetary policy statement and the interest rate decision. So we are going to be having that in 9 hours from now. So that is what we are looking forward to here on the XAUUSD. So we moved on to talk about the CHFJPY yesterday, and let's quickly look at what our expectations were on the CHFJPY yesterday. On the CHFJPY yesterday, remember we identified the sell window after identifying a structure that looks more like a reversal pattern here on the 1 hour time frame. We saw the structure here. We saw price break down the structure, and we're expecting that price is likely going to come within the sell window, where we are going to be looking out for structures that will be supporting a trend continuation to the downside. So what has happened in the last 24 hours? So let's look at the structure we have here. Where were we yesterday? We were around this point yesterday. Hold on a second. We were around this point yesterday, and then we saw the first touch of the sell window at the 50% retracement of the previous impulse leg. Remember, we had this impulse leg identified yesterday, and we were expecting that this move that we are seeing here is going to be a retracement phase of that impulse leg, which might be leading us right back into our golden zone area, which is somewhere right between the 50 and the 78.6% of this previous impulse leg, where we said we are going to be looking out for patterns that will be supporting a trend continuation to the downside. So during the course of yesterday's live session, we saw the rejection of this level, and I told you that if price comes back into the 148.700 area, oh, where are we yesterday? Okay, we were around here. Okay, we were around here yesterday, sorry. We saw this rejection here yesterday, multiple rejection of the 148.700 area, and what I said was that price should come back and do a retest of this area, which will probably evolve into a double top structure, or probably an inverse head and shoulder pattern, where we'll be looking out for selling opportunities. So what I did here, when I saw this move, we saw this move yesterday, price came back, I saw this move, then I took advantage of a sell momentum here right below the 149 area, and I took a sell there. But what happened, we saw price come into the 148 area, which was about, how many pips that is, it was about 60 pips thereabout, before I started seeing price going to the upside, whereby taking me out at my break even level at this point. So going into the New York session today, how do we intend to trade the CHFJPY? Well, firstly, let me share with you how we got to this point. We scale up to the daily time frame, and what did we see on the daily time frame? Well, on the daily time frame, the first thing we observe is that price action has been on a very strong bullish momentum, and as a result of this, we were able to identify a bullish trend line. And if we look at what has been happening since the month of April this year, we can see how price has been respecting that trend line. Hold on a second. So we had this move to the upside, price respected that trend line, price came back into the major trend line here. We saw another rejection of that trend line by the sellers, after which a breakout of that trend line happened in the month of June. And since the breakout happened in the month of June, we continue to see rejection of the 143.500 area by the sellers, multiple times. I think we had one in June, we had one in July, and we also had a couple in August too as well, before we cited the breakout of that structure during the early days of this month. Now, with the breakout of the supply zone here, that is, price took out all the sell position at this point, breaking above the 144 Japanese yen area, and price has gone to as far as the 150.750 Japanese yen area. And one thing we observed as soon as price tested the 150.750 area was that we saw multiple rejection of this level, giving us a clue into a possible selling opportunity that might be coming in from that point. And from a technical standpoint, we were looking at the breakout of the structure here, and we were thinking that if price breaks out of the structure, then let's see if we are going to probably have a retracement back into the structure, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line we identified here, which might likely be pushing price to the upside from this point. Now, we said let's see what is really happening around this area. Are we going to be having that this structure here evolve into the retracement into this bullish trend line? So we scale down to the lower time frame to look at the structure we have here. So scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we observe on the 4 hours time frame is the multiple rejection of the 150.750 area here, which evolved into something that looks like a reversal pattern. So we had this impulsive move to this area. We saw multiple rejection of this level. Price came to as far as the 148.700 area. Price climbed up again into the supply zone, which was unable to break above the previous high, giving us a higher low, and this led into the breakdown of the neckline at the 148.700 area, giving us a matured reversal pattern. So we are not yet sure if this reversal pattern is going to hold, as we want to wait for a retest of structure to happen before the trend continuation to the downside is going to be happening. So in order to find where price is going to retrace into, we use this impulse leg as our yardstick. So we use this impulse leg as our yardstick, and we were looking at a retracement back into our golden zone area, which is right between the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg here. So that's why we identify the sell window here, looking out for selling opportunities. So now that I have explained this and we all have the same perspective here right now, so let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame, where we want to be looking for how to trade the CHFJPY today. So now that we have the scenario and price is right within our sell window, we still have sell potential on this one, despite the fact that we've been seeing bullish engulfing candle in the last couple of hours here. So what I did here is to identify this 149 area, where I said if price comes back down this level, I want to be selling right below this level to join the decline to the downside on this one. So let's see what happens during the New York session today. So we have somewhere around the 149 area to look out for selling opportunities at this point, and if price continues to go to the downside, a breakdown of the neckline at the 148.700 retest to structure will give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So this is how I intend to trade the CHFJPY for today, and I hope you will be on standby to be able to take advantage of this move when it finally happens. So we are still within the sell window and still looking for that sell opportunity to happen on this one. So if you have any question regarding what I've just explained, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section and I will be willing to be of help. All right, so let's move on to the next pair. I think the next pair is going to be the last pair we are going to be looking at for today. And what is the next pair here? The next pair is the USDJPY. Remember yesterday I told you I took a buy opportunity on the USDJPY, after which I have moved my stop loss to break even on this one. Remember, we actually expecting a bearish momentum, but since we cited the breakout of this bearish trend line here and a retest of this trend line, in fact we saw multiple rejection of this area, to give me that leverage to join the rally to the upside. And since then, price has been profitable anyway. I am presently in about how many pips in profit? About 75 pips in profit at this point. And if you had joined me yesterday, you will also be in that profit value at this point in time. And since yesterday, we've moved our stop loss to break even, and price is yet to come back to that area. So the bullish opportunity here still holds. Let's see how it plays out during the New York session today. However, it is worthy for me to let you know and show you that we have an area around the 144 Japanese yen. I think an area between the 143.700 and the 144 area, which has been a selling niche for participants since the later part of last week's trading session. We saw how anytime price comes within this area, we've been seeing selling momentum right from that area. In fact, during the course of the New York session yesterday, we saw multiple rejection by the sellers to give us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. Though during the early hours of today, we saw the breakout of that level, but I'm not yet sure if that breakout is going to be a true one or a false one. So let's see what happens afterwards. So are we going to have any trend continuation to the upside? That is, price breaks out of that level significantly well, where a retest of structure will give us further confirmation to add more position or join this rally if you had missed this move yesterday. That is something we are going to be looking forward to during the New York session today. So right now, my take profit target still falls within the supply zone here at around the 144 area, and it can be as far as the 145 area. At least this is the highest point the buyers have been in the last couple of weeks now. This is the last point it has ever been, and we've been seeing selling momentum right from that area. So let's see how price is going to relate with this area, if we are going to be seeing a breakout of that zone, or we are going to be seeing a trend continuation to a rejection of that level to push price to the downside. So after that being said, remember I told you that we are looking for a sell momentum here after looking at the structure we have on the daily time frame. So let's quickly run through the structure we have on the daily time frame before we now come back to look at what we have on the 1 hour time frame. So on the daily time frame, we had this bullish momentum running since the beginning of the year, and we have that resultant bullish trend line as an evidence of how strong that bullish momentum is. And one thing which I shared with you here that happened since mid-July was that price evolved into a double bottom structure here, where price broke out of the neckline at the 135 Japanese yen area to reach the peak of 145 area. And since the breakout of that neckline area here, we are yet to see price to come back to do a retest of structure with the normal technical scenario, where we'll be looking forward to a trend continuation to the upside. So the multiple rejection of the 145 Japanese yen area in the last couple of weeks gave us a clue of the strength of the sellers here, and we were thinking, is this going to turn out to be a reversal pattern that is going to be pushing price to the downside? So we scaled down to the 4 hours time frame to see things more clearly, and on the 4 hours time frame, we saw structures that looks more like a reversal pattern here. We saw how price has rejected that supply zone a couple of times. Now we are still waiting for that confirmation that this is going to be a reversal pattern, and that's only going to happen if we sight a breakdown of the neckline. In addition to the parameter, the neckline parameter here, we have this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows to give us a bullish trend line since the mid-month of August. Now, if we are going to be selling this USDJPY, we will be looking forward to price breaking down that bullish trend line. So if price breaks down that bullish trend line, then we want to be seeing that has a signal of a trend continuation to the downside. But for me personally, I want to see price break down the neckline at the 142.500 area to be looking for that selling opportunity. And I'm not sure if that is going to be happening, considering the strength of the buyers at this point, as price has still continue to respect this bullish trend line here. So if you are taking this move, like I said, move your stop loss to break even, and let's see how price is going to be from this point. So for those who had missed this move, yesterday. Let's see if we are going to be having a second chance. So right now, like I said, we have a structure right at the 143.500 area where price has where we have seen seller strength here. So let's see if we are going to see a significant breakout of this level. And if we have a significant breakout of this level, that's a signal that buyers are very strong right now. They have taken out all the sell positions here. So we want to wait for a retest of structure where we want to be looking for confirmation on our lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So this is how we want to be trading the USDJPY today. So if we see price come back and do a retest after a significant breakout of that structure, so we want to see this candle close. If it closes as an engulfing candle, we wait for a retest of structure, then we could join the rally to the upside from that point. So that is that on the USDJPY. And before I call it a day, let's quickly do a recap of what we've discussed so far for today, and let's see if we have something new. So the first pair we looked at today is the US oil, and on the US oil we are expecting a bullish momentum here on the US oil after citing a reversal pattern on our 1 hour time frame here. Remember, we had the scenario yesterday. We had this impulsive move to the downside, and since price tested the $83 level, we have witnessed multiple rejection of that area to give us a signal after a breakout of the neckline at the $84.50 to push price to as far as the $86.50 area, which is also our key level for this week. Now that we have this price coming back into this area, we have a couple of rejection of the trend line here right now. So what I'm saying right now is that since we already have a breakout of this neckline, we expect that price will come back and do a retest of structure where we look out for patterns to join the rally to the upside. And if price does not go that far, it might be a retest of this bullish trend line here. So if we see a retest of this bullish trend line, but the most important thing we want to see is a reversal pattern that will be sending reversal pattern on our lower time frame that will be sending price go to the upside. So now the second scenario is, okay, if price does not go this far and price continues to climb to the upside here, that is, we see price climb above this area, please, we want to be patient enough to wait for that signal to complete. And if that signal completes right above this level, we wait for further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So for those who are thinking of selling the US oil, well, I will be saying that it is not safe to be selling the US oil at this point in time, as the only time you want to be selling the US oil is to wait for a bearish signal, which is likely going to come in the form of the breakdown of the support trend line here. That is price taking out all the buy position from this point. So if price breaks down that bearish trend line, breaks out this demand zone, then we can now be thinking of looking for selling opportunities after price retest structure here, and then we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So selling the US oil at this point doesn't seem reasonable. So if a bearish signal happens, then you can sell, but at this point we are only looking for buying opportunity going into the New York session today. Now we moved on to talk about the US tech, and on the US tech we had a signal yesterday. Remember we had this descending channel, after which we saw the breakout of the descending channel during the course of yesterday's trading session, which also aligns with the $11,850 level. So we saw this move, we saw the breakout of structure, price came back to do a retest of this trend line, and then we're looking forward to buying right above the $11,850 area, after which if we see a breakout of the $12,000 area, a retest of structure should give us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade on the US tech. So like I said, right above the $11,850 seems most appropriate to be buying the US tech. And one thing I said as a caution is that as soon as price continue to move in our direction right above the $11,850 area, we want to be locking in our profit, that is, move our stop loss to break even to guard against any sudden pullback that might be happening here. Remember, We are on a very strong bearish momentum here, and there is a likelihood that we could be having price go to the downside. Now, if price does not climb above the $11,850 area at all during the New York session today, and at any point we sight a breakdown of this bullish trend line, then I want to be seeing this as a bearish signal, but we don't want to get too excited, as we want to wait for confirmation to happen in the form of a retest of structure, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline with a take profit target somewhere around the support level of this descending channel, which should be right around the 11,300 area and the 11,400 area. So now we moved on to talk about the gold, and on the gold we're still expecting our bullish momentum to hold here, and I told you we've already taken our buy position has already been triggered during the early hours of today, and right above the $1,670 area still remains a comfortable area to be looking for buy opportunity. And the reason why we are looking for buy opportunity on the XAUUSD is simply because of the multiple rejection of the $1,655 area, which has been respected since the later part of last week's trading session. As we can see, every time sellers try to push price to the downside from this point, it has been met with stiff resistance by the buyers, giving us a clue into the strength of the buyers at this point. So if you are taking that move with me yesterday and you will be running in profit at this point, I advise that you move your stop loss to break even at this point, like I've also done that on my own position. So we want to see how price is going to continue right above the $1,670 area going into the New York session today. Now, for those who had missed this trade, those who had missed this opportunity yesterday, that those who didn't take advantage of this move yesterday, what I said was that, let's say if we're going to be having an outright breakout of this resistance level, this trend line I'm talking about here, if we have an outright breakout of that level, then we wait for price to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of this trend line or the key level at the $1,670 area, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So let's see if price is going to give us a second chance on this one. So our take profit target still remains right around the $1,700 area, which is more or less our key level for this week. And it also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. And remember, we had a breakdown of the structure last week, and we expect that price is likely going to come back into that level. As we can see, we saw multiple rejections, so we might be seeing this as a retracement phase back into that structure. So we don't know what's going to be happening here, if price is going to reject it to push price to the downside, or we could be having a breakout of that structure where a retest will be sending price going to the upside. So we don't know yet. So that is why we have in our take profit target right around that area, after which we see what happens to that level. We see our price relate to that level, and we will decide afterwards. So that is that on the XAUUSD. Then we went on to talk about the CHFJPY, where we were able to identify a sell window here. We took advantage of this move yesterday, but price came back into our entry zone, taking us out at break even. So right now we're still within the sell window here, and that still gives me a leverage that the selling opportunity is still very, very likely at this point. So in order to make things easier for us during the New York session today, I was able to identify this level at the 149 area, where I said right below this area seems most appropriate to be selling the CHFJPY. So we want to be looking for selling opportunities right below this area to push price to the downside on this one. And if price breaks down this neckline area and we see a retest of structure, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. So that is that on the CHFJPY, and we close the day with the USDJPY. And what is our expectation on the USDJPY? Well, we already have a position running on the USDJPY, as we are in a buy position. We moved our stop loss to break even yesterday, and currently price is running in about 85 to 90 pips thereabout on this one. And one thing I'll be advising here, considering this current structure we have here, is to move your stop loss right below the 143.570 area. Now we want to see this candle close, this current candle close, which is about it's about 15 minutes old at the moment. And if price breaks above significantly, well, I have said that for those who missed this move from this point, let's wait for a retest of structure to join the rally to the upside. So this is how we intend to trade the US oil, and if price comes within the supply zone here and we start seeing multiple rejection of the supply zone here, then we want to be looking for selling opportunities on this one. So let's see how price plays out in the next 24 hours, and we shall be coming back here tomorrow to do a follow-up detail in that regard. So on this note, I would like to call it a day. So I hope you, at this point, I'm very sure we are well prepared to take advantage of any scenario that is likely going to be coming up in all the pairs we deliberated today. So we were able to do the US oil, the US tech, the gold, the USDJPY, and the CHFJPY, which is about 5 pairs in total. So let's see how price action plays out. And remember, don't get too excited when we cite a signal, as it's just a signal. We want to wait for confirmations to happen before we join the potential momentum. So in the, and also please take notes that we have a major event coming up in 9 hours. We have the interest rate decision coming up. We have the FOMC. We have the Federal Monetary Policy Statement also coming up in 9 hours. So one thing why I'm saying this is that as soon as price moves in our direction, we want to be locking our profit. Either move your stop loss to break even or look for a significant level to lock in some profit so that we don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that is likely going to be happening. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck during the New York session today, and I hope to see you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, and let's gather here again as a family to look at the financial market and get ourselves prepared against the New York session tomorrow. Bye bye.